All right, now we are going to discuss the presentations that you heard from Michael and from Julie on integrating biodiversity into regional planning and development strategies. And then, just like we've been doing for the rest or the earlier parts of the day, we're going to report out here in just a little bit, and then we're going to take a break, and we're going to have one final session this afternoon. And so go ahead and begin those conversations, and then we'll pull you back together when we're ready to report out. All right, we hope that you've had a little bit of time to chat through some ideas with your neighbors, and now we're going to pass around that microphone so we can hear from every table. Just share one idea.
We were talking about how engaging the community in what really matters, and to Mr. Clifford's point, it's difficult to get people involved with talks about water quality, but it's more efficient and motivating when they're able to get themselves involved in discussions and action items for promoting biodiversity. And I think with my own experiences with Miss Amy Martin of Texas Master Naturalists, that's a really prominent speaking point, and something that's not just something that brings the community together, but is fulfilling. And from the talks that we heard today, like constellations of living memorials, it's so beautiful because you're taking away the stereotype of cemeteries being this heavy, over emotional or burdening kind of place, as some people may think, but by turning those spaces into wildlife sanctuaries and refuges, you're honoring those and doing your due diligence to those who are under the soil and recognizing what they gave to the world and promoting for others to try to do the same.
Thank you so much for sharing. Yes, that's what it is.
Thank you very much. Sean.
Hello. We, in sort of the same vein, we talked a lot about sort of tapping into a lot of the momentum and expertise and passion that's within sort of this arena already. So kind of we're ideating around like how to organize various communities, potentially pit them against each other if there's spaces that those communities can. I think there's a lot of volunteers that are very willing to get engaged in this work. So sort of having a formal structure or being able to organize around getting those people engaged and keeping them engaged, whether that's monthly meetups or quarterly or whatever it may be. But just kind of talk about the ability to sort of galvanize a lot of the information or the energy that is in rooms like this.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Sean. Who's taking the microphone here? Oh, thank you.
Hello. We just really took the opportunity to ask Julie questions from her presentation. I think, from my perspective, I work in the world of water and flooding, and so biodiversity really isn't at the forefront of my mind, and so I appreciate that.
Thank you. Great. Thanks.
Hello, everyone. My name is Gervonta Griffin. I am a freshman turning sophomore at Paul Quinn College. I was invited here by our president, Michael Sorrell, so I thank him. This is a very interesting conversation for us as a table because our focus was more so about the living memorial and how we kind of incorporate that in the local space. And so there was the question of people who may feel weirded out about the idea of a memorial space, because memorials, as was mentioned earlier, kind of cemeteries have this heavy aspect to it, this heavy denseness that's not really spoken about, but everybody feels it. And so we kind of talked about how on a local scale, as weird as it is, it's simply there's just a gap between the biological part about it and the social or sacrilegious part about it. And if we can have a mediator between that, we can essentially make it feel less heavy and lessen the burden. And so for us, being a Quinnite at Paul Quinn, we were very interested in the aspect of it because there are a lot, as you can see on the graph, there are a lot of cemeteries that are just kind of untouched, especially around in that Lancaster area. So we wanted to kind of be the bridge for that gap between not really knowing about it and, you know, focusing too much on the scientific or biological part of it while also incorporating culture. So I think Paul Quinn would be very interested in that, especially with our football turn farm.
Thank you.
I wanted to add something. Yeah, I'm actually down the street, one of our campuses. I'm Maria Bocalandro from Dallas College, and Eastfield campus actually has a cemetery on the campus. Do you know our Eastfield campus of Dallas College has a cemetery there? Don't know the name, sorry. I drive by it, but it's on Motley Drive. And so I think it would be I was thinking about a multidisciplinary project where the students of sociology could go out into the neighborhood, find out, you know, are there still living relatives? Then, you know, you would have the biology students looking at the soil, environmental science, doing a capstone of what kind of natural plants you have to put in there, you know, and we even have, you know, veterinary science and everything. So I think it could be a very good multidisciplinary project for the educational sector and the community colleges. We have 7 campuses on the, and we could maybe with GIS just do an inventory of what are the cemeteries around us and do interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary, because what we're finding is that the employers are saying, yes, this is a very good person at coding, but not so good at other areas. And so we need to put in multidisciplinary courses, research, and practical things that will connect them back. Because what we're thinking, especially in the community college, because they live there, is they will be very, very successful. They will get a PhD, and then they will remember the days they spent at the food bank, at the cemetery, at the shelter, and then they will come back and give to their community. So I think it's a beautiful project. I can be a bridge for you with Dallas County, and we have 220,000 students that can help you.
Thank you, Maria.
Connection, that's what this is about.
Thank you, Maria. And thank you for your comment. Michael Srill and I have known each other since 1995, I think. And so I called him and asked Michael to help me get you on here. So shout out to Michael Srill and Paul Quinn. So glad you guys are here. Okay, a couple others. But by the way, the comment about multidisciplinary, I started writing multidisciplinary curriculum in 1974. I'm a real believer in it, and nothing we've discussed here today involves only one discipline. All of this is multidisciplinary. The reason we've made progress in green issues in Dallas, Texas, and in North Texas is because we combine science with the ability to communicate, with political strategy, with hard work and sitting down, looking eye to eye to people, cross disciplines, business people, financial people, political people, scientists, everybody in the room together working this out. Everything that we've done today is multidisciplinary, and to achieve real success in these fields, it's going to include more than one discipline. Okay, from this table. Is this you again? Okay, go ahead, go for it.
Hey y'all, so we were really focused on the idea of biodiversity when we talked a lot about the topics with Reverse the Red and, well, how do you begin to do that practically? And I got up here on a soapbox and was a huge advocate for native plants, planting native, because I mean, I do think that fixes a lot or helps with a lot of issues with the native plants already being part of the biodiversity that we need to add, and these native plants providing habitat, food, shelter, all these resources that amplify the biodiversity. It just keeps on going. And on top of that, native plants save water, they clean our air. It's just, I mean, come on. But the biggest thing too is, I mean, it's a scale part. You can do this on a personal level in your own garden with no permits, but this is also something we need to be looking at on a large scale with codes, like what plants do the cities allow to plant, and is that invasive species or is that native, and how can we change that blend? And then ultimately, like, all of this comes with education and information, not just about on this like municipal city decision-making level, but on the individual, because there's still very much that perspective of native plants. They're kind of weedy, they're not cute. I'd rather take this like cute Australian or Brazilian plant in my garden. And so that conversation also needs to happen. We can't just lay down the law of the land and expect people to change. So
Yeah.
that's ours.
That's right. I want to mention this before we have this last table, but one thing we've got to get people to do in North Texas is to love North Texas. We hear people say, well, we don't have a seacoast, we don't have a mountain range. We're in the middle of one of the greatest grasslands in the world. We have a 6,000 acre forest, the largest urban forest in America, the longest watershed in Texas. Dozens of kinds of native plants and trees that we can use that are beautiful. And one of the reasons we've gotten to where we are is because we allowed people to steal the narrative and say, well, what I need to do is take all these plants from the south and plant them here. Well, the south is 100 miles east. We are a really unique place on the planet. In fact, it used to be when you drove on Highway 114 to the airport, you could see where the west begins. You could literally look out your car window and see where the land changed and the west began. It went from there to Fort Worth and on west for 1,000 miles. So we need to be teaching that. We need to get people to realize this is a brilliant, beautiful place to live on the planet. And we have great respect for folks who plant those azaleas over there east of Tyler. We don't need them here. We don't need St. Augustine grass here. The biggest waste of crop on the planet happens in North Texas every summer. And it's people watering their lawns to keep the St. Augustine lawn alive. We don't need that grass here. St. Augustine lawns, 70 inches of water, we get 35 in a good year. 35% of our water goes to our lawns. And for me, from a point of view of building new reservoirs like Marvin Nichols, how can we possibly justify taking somebody's land from them so we can have more water to put on lawns that shouldn't be here in the first place? Amen. So we've got some work to do here to get people to fall in love with the place that we live. We need to learn to love ourselves and love where we live. Who's from this table? Here we go.
Hi, I'm Linda Bartley. I've been doing environmental education with elementary kids for 30 years now. Yeah, but listening to all of the planning that's going on, which is just amazing to know about. I'm so glad that you guys are looking for the future for us. The biodiversity part and using iNaturalist is, I'm going to use a personal example. Last summer, I taught my grandson how to use iNaturalist, and this year they went on a spring break trip. I got a postcard that said, I got 50 observations on iNaturalist, and he's 12 years old, and he was just so excited. And so, it's that experience that is just so important. And biodiversity, is in his backyard, it's all over. So that's that realization that it doesn't have to be a bobcat in your backyard, it can be other things. Okay, and then as far as the cemeteries go, we did have a comment that, are there people whose families use that cemetery? How do they feel about it being not a manicured, beautiful, what they consider a beautiful place? Do they, are they okay with it being grassy and, native again? So is there that cultural thing about you want it to be manicured and well taken care of? So there's that a difference there. There are several places here in Dallas that I know that William Ferris has a place where it's a community center. I attended a Hispanic celebration there, and people came. So it's not only a biodiversity thing, but it's also a social gathering place too. And then there's one more cemetery in northern Dallas, Frankfurt, if some of you know about it. Half of it is cemetery with headstones and all, and then half of it is a native prairie. And it had been mowed for years and years. They stopped the mowing, and all this native plants are coming up now because they were just waiting for the right conditions. Yeah, so.
It's really beautiful.
Yeah, I went on you can't walk on the prairie. You can walk around the prairie, but twice a year they have public tours, and I got to walk in the prairie last weekend, so it was great.
Thank you. I think Julie has one more comment here.
One of the quickest ways to create a cultural shift is the fastest way is through the arts. And so we have a show that is currently up at the Trinity River Audubon Center that we borrowed for the Earth X experience. And so that show of 27 artists' interpretation of the circle of life, they took art panels that are in the shape of tombstones, and they created their impression of what the circle of life is. So you will find this body of work in the Trinity corridor on the way to where, yes, thank you. I'm disoriented. So please check it out. This is the last day. And then, of course, you must visit the Trinity River Audubon Center where it will be up till mid-June. So thank you.
Thank you, Julie.
And David, I really like what you said about the West Begins and everything. Just take it I want everybody to do a challenge for themselves. Drive to Seagaville and take a note, observe the landscape, the native landscape in Seagaville. Then drive diagonally across Dallas County to Coppell and observe the native landscape in Coppell. And you will see a complete difference. There's very few places in the world where you can cross a county and see a complete change in the landscape.
Yep, that's right. And by the way, you know why it's called Grand Prairie? Because Grand Prairie was its own ecosystem. Yeah, Fort Worth Prairie. Yeah, Fort Worth Prairie too. So, okay, now we're going to take a break. Let's go for about a 10-minute break. We're going to start again about 3:45. We're going to have a great final presentation from the one and only Julie Hiramoto. And then Kath and I are going to lead us in a closing series of questions. So we've got some things to do, but we're still very excited about what's going on. The table discussions are great, and you're making great comments. So catch your breath and stretch yourself, get a drink of water, whatever you need to do. 10 minutes now, we're going to start again and go to a very exciting conclusion. Thank you.